Hey friends, welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City just a lovely place to live. I'm your host, Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. If you're interested in buying or selling a home in the area, or if you're looking at investing in a rental property, give us a call at 423-930-8003, and we will look forward to helping you. Now, let's get to today's episode. It is a beautiful July day here in beautiful East Tennessee. It stopped raining for a little bit. We've had a lot of rain this week, which we really needed. So thank you, Lord, for that. I'm excited for you guys to not have rain right now, but also more so, except this guy's going to love the rain, I bet. His name is Patrick Mannion with Osprey Whitewater Rafting Outdoors.
That's correct.
Is that good?
That is correct.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. You are probably loving all the rain we're getting.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're some of the few folks around that want it to rain pretty much every day.
Every day. Like, I wish it would rain at night. I've talked to the Lord about this. It could just rain at night. We'd be good, right? And then day.
Yeah, that would be even better. But but we'll take a little bit each calendar day, or a little bit here and there. But we love seeing the rain.
Yeah, it's good. All right. So, Johnson City Living. You've probably listened to it hopefully 1,000 times. What do you love most about Johnson City, Patrick?
Ooh, I think Johnson City is such a cool city. It's got a little bit of everything going on. I love that over the last decade or so, things have really kind of changed gears in Johnson City. I think that Founders Park is awesome. I'm excited to see the infrastructure improvements on Walnut.
Yeah.
Go, kind of be completed. I think we've all been living through it and eagerly kind of waiting the finished product on there. But the people are awesome, man. Great university town, amazing food, good nightlife. As someone who lives in Irwin, it's nice to know that I've got Johnson City just about 15 minutes away.
Yeah. And Irwin's great. What is your favorite thing about Irwin? I mean, it's a cool little town.
I like a lot of things about Irwin. I think Irwin's interesting to me. It's a sleepy little town, and I kind of like that aspect to it. We're hop, skip, and a jump from a couple of cool cities that have a little more going on downtown wise, but we're making some steps in the right direction as well, and hopefully have a forward kind of looking mindset or vision toward the future and progress as a whole. But I love the fact that Irwin is surrounded by the U.S. National Forest System. Unicoi County is 52% national forest, and as far as hiking or biking or fishing or hunting or playing outside, man, we've got it going on.
I didn't know it was 52% of the county is national forest. That's cool. That's a neat statistic.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Yeah. How much of that's whitewater? 1%.
Yeah, percentage-wise, not that much.
Yeah, like 0.1%, but yeah.
We do have tons of waterfalls, and certainly the Nolichucky River Gorge is a place that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm stoked that it comes tumbling out of the mountains of North Carolina and ends up just outside of Irwin.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, where were you born? Tell me about the Patrick origin story.
Ooh, so I was born in southeastern Virginia at Langley Air Force Base.
Oh, cool.
Both my parents were in the military, both in the Army.
Yeah,
and being said, we traveled around quite a bit, so. From Virginia to California to Korea to Germany a couple times.
Holy smokes!
I'm luckily enough, I was the youngest of three, or am the youngest of three. And so right around 4th or 5th grade, we ended up around in Washington, D.C. As my parents kind of finished up their careers, and graduated high school from Lake Braddock Secondary School in Northern Virginia, and ended up going to George Mason University for a couple of years before I transferred to App State. And I think transferring into Appalachian State is what's led me down the path that I've spent the last 2.5 decades doing.
Yeah. And tell me again or tell our listeners what your degree's in, because I didn't even know you could get a degree in this, which is super cool.
So I transferred into Appalachian State and ended up in their health, leisure, and exercise science program studying recreation management.
Yeah.
And ended up getting a triple concentration. So I have a certificate for public parks and rec management, a certificate for commercial rec and tourism management, and a certificate for outdoor experiential leadership.
So you probably are the most educated, qualified guide on the water, if I had to guess.
I don't know about that. I spent a lot of time in school. And, I like to say that my undergraduate career spanned 8.5 years. And if the state of North Carolina hadn't doubled my tuition because I had so many credits, I'd probably still be at App State.
There you go. Yeah. The consummate student forever. I love it. I love it. So how did you get into rafting?
So I transferred in and transferred into App State and was working at a bar in Blowing Rock. And came home one beautiful spring mountain day, those days that we think about all winter long. Birds are starting to chirp, dogwoods are blooming. And I left a daytime bartending shift at a little establishment in Blowing Rock and drove past a rafting company on my way back to Boone and saw boys and girls unloading rafts and kayaks, and literally got to the top of the hill on 321, turned around and went back and filled out my application that day. And I was like, I want to spend my summer guiding.
Oh, that's cool. Had you been had you done much of that before that?
We as a family, we'd been rafting a time or two during my years growing up, kind of moving around here and there.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy whitewater wise, but, I think that my passion for spending time in the outdoors really started to kind of blossom when I was in high school. And, I ended up working for the state of Virginia as a park ranger for, I don't know, about 2.5 or so years. And that was my reason for wanting to get a bachelor's degree was I ended up in a position at Mason Neck State Park in Virginia where I needed a bachelor's degree to actually have the position, and I got promoted into it without that. And so to further my development in my career, I transferred into App State, and that was, that was kind of the stepping stone for sure. I always figured I'd get back into the field of public parks and rec management, but
hasn't happened yet.
Has not happened yet. The rafting took over.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the process of becoming a rafting guide, and maybe some tips and tricks for our listeners to go, hey kids, let's get back in the car because this guy's doesn't seem real safe, right? Like, what's the process of getting your guide? Or is it a licensed position or?
So yeah, every river is governed a little bit differently. On the Nolichucky River, our staff's required to be 18 years of age, have basic first aid and CPR, and have 12 trips down the river. So for the company I started with, in theory, they would slide trainees on any trip where they had van space or raft space. And it was just about kind of getting trips. And you start out pretty much as a paying client would. And after a couple of days, the system. You understand, like, okay, this is the meet time. We're going to gear folks up. We've got this, short ride to the put-in. But it's all about exposure. And it's wild to think I've got over 3,500 commercial days on the Nolchucky, and I learn something every day,
3,500.
Yeah.
And the river's never the same, right? And you're never the same.
It's never the same. The Nolchucky is an interesting and very dynamic section of river to work on, to play on. The water levels are always going up or coming down, and that's based entirely upon water level. Water levels are based on rainfall. Rainfall on the water table, and the water table in a lot of ways is based on rainfall. So
yeah,
even when you look at today, this morning, it was a little bit higher than it would be this afternoon, but tomorrow morning should be a little higher than it was this evening or even this morning. And on the average season, I'll work between 140 to 160 days out there,
okay.
and no two of those days will be the same.
How long does it take for the water to matriculate? Like, because you're saying the water, so it rained this morning, it rained last night. So it's all coming out of the puddles, off the leaves, going down the streams into the river.
Good question. There's a couple factors that go into it. Where it hits in the watershed, and the watershed for the Nolchucky is just under 800 square miles of mountains in North Carolina, upstream of Poplar, North Carolina, which is where we launch for the Nolchucky Gorge. Some of those creeks that are right there in Poplar or Green Mountain or Red Hill, North Carolina are going to hit pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or quickly. If you look at some of the stuff higher up on the North Toe up in Newland, or on the South Toe coming off the side of Mount Mitchell or the Cane River, it's going to be 24, 27 hours before it gets to the gorge down in Poplar. And so that is something that is pretty dynamic, is there's days where I'll wake up in Irwin and I'll take a look at the river, and I've looked at the radar and I'm trying to guess what it's going to do. And I'll look, and down by Uncle Johnny's where the Appalachian Trail crosses at Nolchucky, it'll be clear and low. And next thing you know, we meet our guests. We drive over to the hill to the put-in, and bam, it's muddy and high, and
It's rolling.
It's rolling. And, we tighten up our drawstrings a little bit. We change the safety talk a little bit here and there. And, and we go for a big splashy ride.
Is there a time where you're like, it's running too much, we can't do it?
For sure.
And then that's when you and the guides get in and go?
The Nolchucky, the Nolchucky does get too high to go. The Nolchucky Gorge does. In that case, we'll move folks down to the lower Nolchucky.
Okay.
We book the Nolchucky as a class 2, 3, and 4 run. At summertime water levels, we take kids 7 and up or 60 pounds and up. If we get to the launch ramp and things are rolling and it's above that kind of class 3 to 4 designation, we're going to go ahead and switch gears. And if we break up the groups, that's fine too. Where some of the folks are looking for a class 5 run, we'll go ahead and take them. But if some folks are more conservative or they want to stick with what we're going with, we're certainly happy to oblige and give them the trip that they paid for. We look at it as a bonus.
Yeah.
If we get a couple high water days in, and the average year we'll get a couple handfuls in. Some years, we'll get 30 or 40 of them. And I think that's one of the cool things about the Nolchucky is it's rainfall dependent, and I've yet to meet anyone who can control the rain. So,
right.
We deal with the punches. I think at high water, it's splashy and exciting and exhilarating. At low water, it's splashy and fun, but it ends up being a technical challenge for the staff. We use smaller boats, and drops that are 1 and 2 feet at high water end up being 4 and 5 feet at low water. And so, with high water, low water, mid-range water, it's always an incredible experience, and the scenery is always remarkable.
It is beautiful. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of coming down, I think from the top part all the way down. That's just gorgeous. Did you have a heart? So if you've been around this summer, it's been pretty dry. We were gone for a couple of weeks, and I came back and my yard looks crispy, like just burnt desert. And so, has that affected you guys considerably? And now we're totally changed. It's rained like the last 6 or 8 days, it feels like.
Yeah, so we had a real hot and dry June. We make a couple of accommodations. We use smaller boats that we had custom built for the Nolchucky. Cool. Yeah, for the Nolchucky at this water level. We'll lower the ratio of guests to guides.
So it floats a little easier.
So we float a little higher. It's I think it's one of those unique things that we can do is we can actually hurt our profitability a little bit, or not that we can do. We choose to hurt our profitability a little bit to provide a better experience. And the Nolchucky is such an amazing section of river that even at low water, the scenery is remarkable. It's going to be splashy and fun. We're going to stop and swim in the pools. And unlike some of the other dam controlled runs around, the water is comfortable. Those days when we were in the mid 90s in Irwin, the water temperature was 78 degrees. It felt great to just kick it and float through those pools.
Yeah.
And we take ample time to really enjoy that and maximize the experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun just getting in the water and seeing the outdoors. And you're right. We're in one of the most beautiful places in the country. It's just over and over, just astounding. And it's cool for you to have 3,500 days down the river and still enjoying the scenery every day. That's really, I think that's a great perspective to have on it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. It's we're never certain what we're going to see.
What's some of the wildlife you get to take a look at on the regular?
Oh, so this season, pretty regularly, we've seen osprey and bald eagles. Saw a huge buck swim across the
that's cool.
Yeah, right at the state line a couple weeks ago. River otters, saw a couple of those 2 days ago. Canada geese, mallard ducks, crested mergansers, another type of duck that's been around. We've seen cormorants for the last couple of weeks, which are an interesting bird that swims to catch fish.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so, I've seen a bear or two this year. It's, the Nolichucky River Gorge is steep and remote and rugged, and you're surrounded by pristine wilderness, and there's really no way in or out of there except by a river.
Right. It is steep. We don't have a lot of snakes, right, around the river.
There's some snakes around, but they typically leave us alone.
Yeah.
There's There's no snake around that's going to see a 12-foot orange raft with 5 people in it and think that that's lunch, you know?
Yeah.
But we do see them, and sometimes we point them out, sometimes we don't. I think the brown water snakes are just doing their things. Every now and again, we'll see a timber rattler or a copperhead, but
very rarely, right? I mean, it's not like, those are the only 2 poisonous snakes we have in our area.
Those are the 2 that we're really worried about. And I'm thankful that we're out of the territory of a water moccasin.
Oh, yeah.
Cottonmouth.
My dad grew up with those in Memphis. Yeah. No, thank you. So tell me about Osprey Rafting. Is that your company or?
So I'm the operating partner for Osprey Whitewater, and we are the paddling wing of Hawk's Nest.
Okay.
You know, Hawk's Nest has been a long time kind of center for family fun, outdoors fun, up in Seven Devils, North Carolina, in between Banner Elk and Boone.
You can you see it still from the interstate?
Hawk's Nest?
Yeah.
You cannot.
Okay.
You know, Hawk's Nest is up by Grandfather Mountain.
Oh, that's right.
But it's an amazing facility. And so we've got we now snow tube in the winter, and we zip line in the summer, and we're looking forward to expanding in the next summer or 2 into the mountain coaster kind of bracket, which is going to be pretty sweet. So we're really working on rebranding Hawk's Nest, which originally started out as a golf and ski resort.
Yeah.
And kind of just keeping with the flow of things and utilizing the terrain we have to really kind of keep family fun and the outdoors going as we kind of switch gears into the new millennia.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Are we, for snow stuff, I mean, we're talking global warming, you hear that all the time. Is that a thing for you guys, or are we seeing less days on the mountain for skiing and snow, snow activities, or?
I think every winter is different and unique, kind of the same way that every summer is,
Right.
I think that we are noticing some trends, but I think as of right now, we've set ourselves up from an infrastructure standpoint to where we can still have a pretty long and significant snow tubing season. We've got the right guns, and we've got plenty of water. We just put in a new, 3-pump automatic pump snowmaking system down in our pump house, and we've made some strategic investments to kind of maximize our snowmaking abilities during the time frames and the windows that were allotted, just so that we can keep snow on the slopes and keep folks tubing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It sounds like, I'm sure you work pretty hard, but you get to play every day. And what I'm thinking about, like, you're like, okay, in the winter I'm going to ski and snowboard, and then in the summer I'm whitewater rafting, fishing, swimming, hanging out. It's a pretty good gig. That's why you got a big smile on your face right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cheesing. I love hearing about it. It's it's wild to think that on my to-do list tomorrow, I'm not on the water tomorrow. On my to-do list tomorrow is to vacuum out a couple vans and deep clean the bathrooms and change the rooms after a busy July weekend. And so that's not the stuff that we think about,
right?
As far as being a river guide,
right? But it's operation. You gotta get her done.
But it's got to be done, and we love making sure that our facilities and our equipment are as clean and dialed in and prepared as possible. And so there certainly are a lot of things that I enjoy about what I do, and I look forward to every day. Every day is different. Whether I'm rafting or whether I'm making snow, and we kind of roll with the punches. We're always ready to call an audible if needed, and we've done everything we can to kind of surround ourselves with the best staff members and the best equipment to be able to handle those changes.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you see, like, I mean, in the future for you? Do you see yourself continuing to guide forever, or what's kind of the plan?
So my goal is to guide as long as I can. I think that's where I want to be. I think that's where society wants me to be, actually, is out there in a lot of ways. And I don't know how long I'll be able to guide, but I'm hoping I've got a couple more years in me.
Yeah.
I've ended up in a unique position where, I worked for one company for 25 years. Over those years, I worked for a lot of other companies too. But in starting out this new venture with Hawk's Nest as my partners, I've ended up in a very similar position to what I've had for the last 20 years. And so for the last 20 years, I managed an outpost on the Nolchucky, and I spent those 20 years hiring, acquiring, training, and retaining the most dialed-in staff I could find, and surrounded myself with those folks. Worked on tweaking our boat designs to make them as dialed in as we could as well. And I think one of the cool things about my partnership that I'm in right now, or about our partnership, is that we are as a staff, as a river-based staff, are in a very similar situation where we have another entity, another part of our organization that's going to do all the marketing and all the promotions and do all the payroll and HR and all that. And that allows us to focus on what we do best and where we want to be, which is on the water.
Yeah, which makes it a lot more fun. How many trips a day do you take down the river?
Typically we do one.
Okay.
You know, with the right water levels, we can run two. You know, our goal is to get folks out in the morning and hopefully get out there before the other folks are out there and before all the birds and everything kind of get scattered away. But ideally we'll do one in the morning and then one in the afternoon, but we're guaranteed that we can do that morning trip for sure.
Yeah. How do our listeners make sure they get with you on the river?
Very nice. So our website is hawksnestwhitewater.com. You can also give us a call at 828-963-6561 if you'd like to talk to a customer service representative, or our outpost, our Nolichucky Rafting outpost, is at 857 Rock Creek Road. So we've got a convenient location to the Tri-Cities for sure, you know, probably 15 minutes from where this interview is being made downtown.
Yeah. If my wife is a planner, I'm like, hey, let's go whitewater rafting this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that, or do you have to call like 3 weeks in advance, 5 weeks? How far out do you need to book it?
I would recommend calling in advance. You know, we've had a pretty busy week, especially this time of year. You know, July is going to be, you know, kind of our hottest month as far as bookings go. Typically from the middle of June to the middle of July, we're going to be pretty gangbusters.
Okay.
That doesn't mean we won't have availability, and you can certainly check that online with our website. But if you want to guarantee to have some spots, or guarantee to have the guides you want, because a lot of our returning clients love requesting guides.
Right.
I would book that as soon as you know. And that way we can guarantee that you have the guide you want and that you have the date and the time slot that you want.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because you kind of make friends with your guide as you're going down the river, because you're like, all right, I'm putting my life in this guy's hands, and you just wind up laughing and having a great time with the guides. Every one I've had has been fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about like community of the guides and what life looks like for you guys, because I think it looks, from the outside looking in, it looks like a lot of fun.
So it's pretty cool, and I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, over the years, I've worked commercially on pretty much every river that's commercially run, from the Cheat River and the Panhandle of West Virginia down to the Chattooga River, which forms the border of Georgia and South Carolina. And I think our community of guides here on the Nolchucky is pretty unique. You know, for probably the last 10 years or so, there were only 3 companies out there. Now we're up to 5 rafting companies, which is still not that many. And one of the cool things about it is over the years, I've worked for pretty much every company that's been permitted on the Nolchucky. You know, even this year, I've worked for other companies. And so a lot of our guides, you know, if we don't have a trip for them, they're welcome to work for whoever. And I think that allows us to have a sense of camaraderie amongst the companies.
Sure, yeah.
To where
collaboration instead of competition.
Exactly. You know, we're not competition to one another. And if one of the other companies out there has a bigger day than us, it's certainly not something that I see as a negative. I'm not threatened by it at all, and they shouldn't be threatened by me. But at some point, I think there is that cool aspect in such a remote kind of wilderness setting. It's nice to know that we have that sense of camaraderie, where if we really need a hand, or if they really need a hand, that we know that back behind us or coming up in 15 minutes behind us, that there'll be some help and some folks that we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a really cool sense of community. The Nolchucky is pretty tight knit, and once we're out in the woods, you know, it doesn't really matter what color boat we're in or what color paddle we're holding.
That's right.
You know. We're all out there for the same reason, regardless of those things.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about some fun trips you've had down the river, some adventures, some scares, some, I don't know, celebrities maybe you took down the river. I don't know, whatever you want to tell me. I think you've got a lot of great stories. I can tell just by the way you're thinking and smiling and laughing. So, yeah.
You know, I think that we all have a lot of interesting days. You know, every day out there is interesting. You know, I think that I think there's a couple that stick out. You know, I think one of the amazing things about outdoor adventure businesses is that the people that are doing the marketing and the people that are actually booking the reservations oftentimes are not the people that are providing the service.
Sure.
And I think it's always interesting to me. In fact, we did it yesterday. You know, the first couple cars pulled into our parking lot, and I could see my staff kind of like peeking around the corner, you know, trying to get their first look at the clients. And And you see the clients too, like in the
Yeah.
car, kind of looking out, over their Stanley cups and their cups of coffee. And, like they're eyeballing us and kind of ranking us, and we're eyeballing them too. And I think that's something that is pretty funny.
That's hilarious.
Because we end up with some very interesting folks. We end up with folks going rafting who I never would imagine would sign up to go rafting. And, we give them a good time. And at the end of the day, they put their dry shorts on and hopefully buy a T-shirt and head on down the road and leave us a 5-star review. But I think that every day is different. We have days with no swimmers. We have days with with boats upside down. And I think one of the cool things about it is as we work together as a team, and a lot of these boys and girls I've worked with for 20 or so years, we pick up the pieces and we put a smile on their face, and eventually we'll find the paddles and the water bottles and we cruise on down range. Interesting stories. I think one of the more impressive days was we somehow ended up with a group of 78.
78 people?
78, and they were like Korean or Asian women. And I lived in Korea for a couple of years.
Oh, that's cool.
You know what I'm saying? So like I don't recall any of the Korean I learned in elementary school, but that day I certainly wish I had. And we rode they had charter buses. So we used one of our vans for equipment and staffing and staff getting over to the river. And then we used their charter buses to transport them. So they showed up to our shop. We, bathrooms, changing rooms. We got them geared up with life jackets, helmets. We put them back on their buses. And then on their buses for the 15-minute ride to the launch ramp, we gave them a safety talk. And there were some interpreters, And so as we were talking about, like, this is how you put your helmet on or how you adjust your helmet, someone in Korean would tell their homies, kind of interpret what we were saying. And we gave the full safety talk. We got to the launch ramp. We broke them up into boats, and we're looking at 15 or 16 rafts out there.
Oh, wow.
And at some point, we went out in the pool. We practiced paddling forward, practiced paddling backward, practiced leaning in, yada, yada, yada. And we entered the first little rapid of the day. And I remember the raft in front of me. I was somewhere in the middle of the pack. The raft in front of me hit the first little wave, and maybe 4 inches tall, and called for one forward stroke. And all the participants just threw their paddles as far as they could. And they looked like blue and yellow fireworks. Oh my gosh. And the next raft got to that little wave, boom, and it was the same thing and the same thing and the same thing. And that's probably the most memorable day I've ever had, is by the second or third rapid of the day. And there's 27 rapids out there.
And you're going down with no.
We had stopped calling strokes, and we had stopped giving folks paddles back, and we were just trying to find them. And I remember at the end of the day, our group sales coordinator being like, "How were they?" And I was like, "Man, it was quite a show, but we got them all back, and we're down 47 paddles."
That's a lot.
That's a significant amount of paddles for sure. Yeah. And more than we had lost in probably 10 years before that. And I think at some point I was like, man, like, I don't know how we got that group. I remember literally like being like, I don't know how we got that group. They had flown into LA and hopped on these buses and gone to Grand Canyon and gone to Zion and, coming across the country, and they were flying out of LaGuardia, but they stopped into Irwin, Tennessee, and
didn't know how to hold on to a paddle. Like, it's bad, get rid of it.
It was a different adventure than I think they signed up for.
You're like, interpreter guy, what did you say? Because you're like, that's funny. Ever take anybody famous down the river?
I'm trying to think. There was
presidents or.
Yeah, no presidents. I've had some famous folks on the Golly River. We took down like the backup singers for the Fugees one time.
Oh, nice.
And that was pretty amazing. They had their dreadlocks on, and I've got crazy long hair too. But like the background singers had dreadlocks that were like
all over the place.
So like, the size of like that amplifier for a guitar, like. So their helmets were like
kind of sort of riding on there barely.
There were some folks where their helmets seemed to be like 2 feet above their heads.
Right, you're not going to need it with all that hair. You'll be fine. Mm-hmm.
But they were pretty sweet. I'm trying to think. There was one. one like news anchor. It wasn't Kathy Lee Gifford, but it was someone from like that era, someone
Yeah.
from, and that was a pretty interesting day. Like she wouldn't get on the school bus with other folks. It was like, well, that's how we're getting to the river. You know,
Where's my limo?
And she was like,
we're
no,
not
my production assistant won't let me get on the bus or whatever. And I was like, well, I mean, like, but you signed up to go rafting. That's how we're going rafting.
Yeah. That's funny.
And so we ended up, you know, kind of blocking off a couple seats around her, and we took her rafting.
That's fun. What are some of the scariest days you've had on the water?
Ooh, you know, I think that, yeah, I think that there's been a handful of days for sure that stick out. And, you know, on the Nolchucky, at real low water, so that there end up being some pretty tight and technical moves. At real high water, the pools get really fast. And so, there's different potential consequences and different hazards at every water level. You know, a couple years ago, we had a couple week stretch of pretty good water. And I think one of the amazing things about my staff and I is that, you know, even if it's been 2 or 3 years or 5 or 6 years since we've seen a specific water level, at some point, you know, like it's back there. It's like an elephant, you know, like a herd in the Serengeti that's going through a drought they haven't seen in 5 years. But there's somebody who remembers, you know, that 30 miles this way, there'll be a water source. And after a couple of days of some pretty high water, we got to the launch ramp, and we ended up, I don't know, 5 or 6 boats, and we had a boat that flipped below a rapid called Jaws, which the first couple miles of the Nolchucky are really steep and narrow and constricted. And things get moving pretty quick at high water. So we pick and choose the features that we want to hit, oftentimes going around what looks like a big fun wave, but we know that if we eat it there, it's going to be a long and potentially pretty brutal swim.
Right.
And we had a guy that just caught the corner of the hole at Jaws and ended up upside down. And we ended up, you know, scooping everybody up, and we got them all to the bank in a big eddy on the left below a rapid called Snappy, the next rapid down. And it's right above Canyon entrance, which is right above quarter mile long class 4. That starts to all run together at pretty significant water levels. And I remember this young lady named Angel just like shaking her head, like, I'm not getting back in the boat, not getting back. And I tried to talk to her for a bit. It's like, oh, you can ride with me, you know, like, you know, we got everybody back. And, luckily we had Ethan, who's our voice of reason. And Ethan Sane, who's now a state park ranger, for the state of Tennessee. You know, Ethan gave her just a very relaxing, good talk, and we got her back in a boat and had a great day. And at the end of the day, she was like, well, I'm thankful to be here on land, but I can tell you, I'm not going to be taking a shower anytime soon. And I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
as at some point, you know, she had enough water for a minute.
For a while. She's gotten pretty wet. Yeah. I mean, it can be, you get scared really fast. I mean, like sometimes you're cruising and you're like, okay. And then you'll see it coming up, and then like it goes, you accelerate very quickly at some points, and it's just like, whoa, okay, we're moving pretty good here. And, you know, and you're like walking in, and I'm always watching out for family and, you know, that kind of thing. And so it's a lot of fun. It just really kind of gets your heart racing. It's exciting and yeah, and super powerful. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, it's an interesting game. The, you know, there's also what I call the snowball effect of failure, where, and I proved this the other day, right? I was the first boat into quarter mile, and I had one swimmer, and, you know, the boat after me had 2 or 3 chasing after that one. And, you know, we pick up the pieces as quickly as we can, and we surround ourselves with some of the best of the best. And at the end of the day, you know, everybody's buying T-shirts and stickers, and it's the highlight of the summer.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, the difference between adults and kids. And I think about it now as myself as a middle-aged man, you know, like how much more conservative I am now. But
yeah, we're like, if we break something, it's going to take a while to get better. You know, like we think about that as opposed to like, let's jump in, let's go, you know.
But yeah, little kids love it. You know, that's the experience of their summer is getting splashed and having a good time, and then parents have a good time too,
riding the bull and all kinds of fun stuff. Well, I've enjoyed learning all about it. What else can you tell me about rafting that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with our audience?
Ooh, you know, I think one of the cool things about the Nolchucky is even if you've done it once, even if you've gone with one of the other outfitters, or even if you've gone with me back in the day when I was just in a different colored boat, man, one of the cool things about the Nolchucky is it's always different.
Yeah.
And so what we see out there with the wildlife, the other paddlers, trains coming through the gorge on a misty day like this morning, the water levels are always different. The scenery is always amazing, and it's always a unique experience. And so just because you've done it once, I wouldn't let that refrain you from coming back again.
Yeah. What, let's say the Nolichucky is number 1 for you. What would be your number 2 river in the world that you've been down that you're like, this was awesome? Because obviously you're staying here. You must love this one.
Yeah, I love the Nolichucky the most. I think it's the most dynamic. After high water events, the rapids change and move around. The sandbars move. And so we're constantly kind of learning and relearning and forced to stay on our toes. I think that the close second for me, and a place that I'm already looking forward to getting back to again, it would be the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. And I've been lucky enough to get on 8 of those trips, and that's an ultimate expedition. Launching at Lee's Ferry right below Glen Canyon Dam and taking out right above Lake Mead at Pierce Ferry. That's 277 miles by water, and that's an amazing journey.
How long does that take you?
So I've been on 8 trips. I've been on a couple that were like 23 days, 25 days. I've been on 3 that were 30 days.
Oh, wow. So the water's moving about 10 miles an hour kind of thing?
So yeah, we're cruising. We're hoping to make about 10 miles a day. We'll stop and do side hikes and stuff. We're camping every night. But that is an ultimate expedition. And the Nolchucky has a very Western feel to it as far as the deep, remote parts of the corridor where you're 2,500, 3,000 feet below the rim. I think on the Grand Canyon at your deepest point, you're like 7,800 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just a different scale.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Nolchucky is amazing. The 8.5 miles between road access points keeps us from just having a lot of folks out there. The Grand Canyon, is kind of that on a bigger scale. And certainly we're using bigger boats and we're camping. And, I've refinanced my house twice to get back on the Grand Canyon.
Oh, that's cool.
Because life is about priorities.
There you go. Yeah. I like it. You're like, I got to go. I got to get back.
Yeah, got to change.
I got to get back. How, what's the longest period of time you've been off the water, not counting like the winter, and where you're just like, oh man, I'm itching to get back onto the water?
I've had days where I've paddled the Nolchucky over 300 times, 300 days of a year. I think the longest I've probably gone without being out there is probably 40, 45 days.
Yeah.
If I go out west for a month and a half, the day I get back, I'll be on the water.
Yeah.
It's where I want to be.
It's an addiction. It's probably a good one.
Yeah. It's wild. I've got 18,000 or something unread emails. I noticed that today as I was checking some work related emails.
It's hard to check your email while you're going down the river.
It's hard to check it, and I don't want to, and I think that's, at some point, it's like, well, I guess they'll get back to me.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, they're not that important. All right, you ready for a quick speed round of questions?
Sure.
All right, so burger or pizza?
Ooh. Where from?
Well, you just got to, for dinner tonight, burger or pizza?
So yeah, I'm kind of a both person.
Okay.
I weigh 260 pounds. I've got a lot of gravitational pull.
I don't know. Let's see. I guess you could go to Cootie Brown's and get a burger and a pizza.
Yeah, I went to Cootie Brown's last night.
I did too.
I got the Pittsburgh pie, which has a sirloin steak on it.
That's awesome. All right.
Because I couldn't decide, or because I like their burgers. I just
they're so good. Yeah.
Tonight would be pizza.
Okay.
But last night was pizza.
So what's your favorite pizza place locally?
So I like Cootie's Pizza. I
love their pizza.
I love
their Caribbean pizza is my favorite.
The Caribbean? Yeah, the
with
Caribbean.
That jerk sauce and chicken and mango. It's so good.
The Caribbean pie is good. I'm a big fan of Main Street.
Those are big plate covering pieces of pizza. They're so good. Yeah. Okay. Where are you going to get a burger?
So I think the Drunken Goat Burger at the Label is my burger.
It is really good. That thing is so good.
I think the Label does a lot of things right, and I really like their burgers. I like their signature burger, but I think the Drunken Goat Burger with the Buffalo Trace blackberry jam calls my name.
They know what they're doing. Where are you going to get a burger in Irwin? Where's your hometown burger?
So in Irwin, my burger shop right now is going to be the Red Fork. You know, I'm super stoked that we've got a new restaurant in town.
Yeah.
And they're doing it right. You know, I liked the burger at Timber, and now I've got one I can ride my bike to in Irwin.
Yeah. So Red Fork's part of Timber.
I believe they have kind of the same back of the house kind of ownership
Nathan
and management. I think there's some local Irwin partners too, is my understanding.
Okay.
But yeah, real good burgers, man. Amazing fried chicken dinner.
Ooh.
And I think it's going to be a game changer for Irwin. It's nice to see that we have options that aren't just fast food and like diner food.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a diner person too. But it's nice to have a place I can sit down on the porch and have a good kind of sit down meal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's special. Coffee or tea?
Ooh, coffee.
Okay. Where's your favorite coffee spot?
The Steel Rails Coffee Shop.
Man, that place is nice. I do. Carly and I like going there when we're in Irwin. It's nice. They're good people.
Yeah, Steel Rails has got the best breakfast in Irwin. You know, I get the Southbounder bagel and
what's on the Southbounder bagel?
Ooh, so it's I guess it comes with your choice of protein. I get bacon, and so choice of protein, egg and cheese. On a bagel, I add lettuce, tomato, and onion, and it comes with a Steel Rail special sauce. But I get it on the side because I'm more of a dipper.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to sauces,
I like dipping. I like it. You like donuts? You got any donut places you like around here?
You know, I
more of a protein.
Haven't had donuts in a minute. But I'm looking for recommendations. You got a good donut shop?
Well, we used to have Peggy Ann's here in town, and then they closed this location. It's still in Greenville. I think I'm headed there tomorrow.
Okay.
Just their plain glazed donut is just world class. But yeah, it's hard to beat Krispy Kreme. You know, they're so good. And then my son and I used to get these chocolate covered cream filled donuts from Dunkin' Donuts called the Manager Special, and so that's so good. They're just icing and it's just good. So it's hard to beat that. Yeah,
I've got a heck of a sweet tooth.
I know, right? I love it all.
I
love it all. Yeah. Well, and you burn off a lot of calories carrying boats, pulling people out of the water, rafting, paddling. I mean, it's probably a workout.
Yeah, you know, we get our strokes in, that's for sure. Usually by now I'm working off my hoodie weight that I gain over the winter. And then in the winter, I got a couple extra layers.
Like a bear, you're hibernating all winter, coming out.
Couple extra layers making snow. Lots of snacks overnight making snow. And that's one of the things that we need people to go rafting so I can lose that hoodie weight and get back to where I can wear a Hawaiian shirt and not look like a float in the Macy's Day Parade. You know.
Does that come in a double extra large? Yeah, that's fun. Okay. So, I think I can't think of anything else to push in on you about, except remind our listeners how they connect and get on you. Like, let's say they want to go rafting with you because they're like, we listen to this guy. He sounds like a cool dude. He is super cool guy. He's one of those handsome, long-haired fellas. You're like, this guy's just cool. How do we hook up with Patrick to be as our guide?
Heck yeah. Well, we'd love to take folks rafting. You know, it's what we do. We specialize in the Nolchucky. It's a marquee section of river, and we're one of the exclusive outfitters licensed and permitted by the National Forest Service to take folks from Papa, North Carolina to Irwin, Tennessee on the Nolchucky Gorge. You know, we offer some amazing experiences, and we make a lot of folks kind of highlight reel of their summer and the fall too. We got fall coming up. Leaf season is an amazing time to get out there. You can book trips at www.hawksnestwhitewater.com. You can give us a call at 828-963-6561. You can check us out on Instagram at Osprey Whitewater is our handle, or on Facebook. It's Hawks Nests Osprey Nolichucky Outpost.
So in the notes, when you're making your online thing, you're like, I want Patrick as my guide.
Yeah, you can request me as a guide. You can request anyone other than me too. You know, we do. That's
true. Yeah.
A lot of times folks will come back a couple times in the summer, especially folks with vacation houses, and they kind of like checking out different guides too.
Sure.
So that's something that's pretty cool is we're all characters. I'm privileged to work alongside the boys and girls that we've got on the staff, and every one of them's going to give you an amazing trip. Some real historical, some real nature bound, some just funny, kind of telling stories and laughing and having a good time. But we guarantee that you'll have a good time out there. In fact, if you don't have a good time out there, we'll send you rafting with another company out there, and maybe they can give you a good time, maybe not. Either way, we took you once, and we've got you on our email list.
That's right. You're going to hear about us forever. You're going to remember that not so great time.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah.
I guess the guarantee should be a little bit. The guarantee would be like, we guarantee you'll have a good time.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good time, we'll actually send you pictures of people that did have a good time.
That's right. You missed out because it was your attitude on the river. That was your problem. Like, yeah. And sometimes you can't make everybody happy. You know, some people just show up, they're grumpy.
But we're going to paddle our way. We're going to paddle our way through the shoals, trying to make sure you have a good time. And
do you ever get just a bunch of grumpy people and you dump them all just to kind of get them like,
I think as I'd like to say as I've grown as a person, but my girlfriend tells me all the time I haven't grown as a person. At some point, I think that we used to put the crushing on some folks, and I think we're at the point now where we like keeping that med kit closed, and
right.
And I think that's the goal, man.
Yeah, keep it safe. But you know what? You changed your attitude a little bit when you're all soaking wet and you went for a swim. You know, it's just a little different. So yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed getting to know you. Now I feel like I got a friend on the river now. I'm looking forward to coming down, taking the family. It'll be fun. And thanks for the conversation. It's just good to know that there are great people doing awesome things in our beautiful country, and it's just awesome. So until next time, I'm Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. If you want to move to Irwin and hang out with Patrick on the regular, or we can help you buy a house down there or here in Johnson City, or we can help you sell a house anywhere in the world. So just call me, reach out, connect with us. And thanks again for listening, and share this podcast with somebody and give us a like down below. Thanks and have a great day.